Greetings, esotericists, and welcome to Esoteric Teachings. Tonight I present you with Book 14 of the Dionysiaca by Nonnus of Panopolis. Let us begin straight away. The Divine Army of Dionysus. Turn your mind to the 14th. The Rhea arms all the ranks of heaven for the Indian war. Then swift-shoe Rhea haltered the hairy necks of her lions beside their highland manger. She lifted her windfaring foot to run with the breezes and paddled with her shoes through the airy spaces. So like a wing or a thought, she traversed the firmament to south, to north, to west, to the turning place of dawn, gathering the divine battalions for Laios. One all-comprehending summons was sounded for trees and for rivers, one call for naiads and hadriads, the troops of the forest. All the divine generations heard the summons of Cybele, and they came together from all sides. From high heaven to Lydian land, Rhea passed aloft with unerring foot, and returning lifted again the mystic torch in the night, warming the air a second time with Mygdonian fire. Now once more, ye breaths of Phoebos, after the tale of mortal heroes and warriors, teach me also the host divine. First from the fire-peak rock of Lemnos, the two Caberoian arms answered the stormy call beside the mystic torch of Samos, two sons of Hephaestus, whom Thracian Cabero had borne to the heavenly smith, Aelcon and Eurymedon, well skilled at the forge, who bore their mother's tribal name. From Crete came grim warriors to join them, the Adian Dactyloi, dwellers on a rocky crag, earthborn Corybants, a generation which grew up for Rhea self-generated out of the ground in the olden time. These had surrounded Zeus, a newborn babe in the cavern which fostered his breeding, and danced about him shield in hand, the deceivers, raising wild songs which echoes among the rocks and maddened the air. The noise of the clanging brass resounded in the ears of Kronos high among the clouds, and concealed the infancy of Cronion with drummings. The chief and leader of the dancing Corybants was Pyrrhicos and Shake-a-Shield Idios. And with them came Gnossian Kurbans, and armed his motley troops, their namefellow. The spiteful Telchines came also to the Indian war, gathering out of the cavernous deeps of the sea. Lycos came, shaking with his long arm a very long spear. Schelmus came, following Demomeneus, guiding the sea chariot of his father Poseidon. These were wanderers who had left Tlepolemus's land and taken to the sea, furious demons of the waters, who long ago had been cut off, reluctant from their father's land by Thrainax, with Mercurius and glorious Orges, sons of Helios. Driven from their nursing mother, they took up the water of Styx with their spiteful hands, and made barren the soil of fruitful roads, by drenching the fields with water of Tartaros. After them came the gentle tribe of multiform centaurs. Beside Pholos in horse's form was Chaeron, himself of that strange nature, untamed, with mouth unbridled. Battalions of Cyclopeans came like a flood. In battle, these with weaponless hands cast hills for their stony spears, and their shields were cliffs. A peak from some mountain ravine was their crested helmet, Sicilian sparks were their fiery arrows. They went into battle, holding burning brands and blazing with light from the forge they knew so well. Brontes and Steropes, Euryalus and Eletreus, Arges and Tracheos and proud Halimedes. One alone was left behind from the war, Polyphemos, tall as the clouds, so mighty and so great, the earth-shaker's own son. He was kept in his place by another love, dearer than war, under the watery ways, for he had seen Galatea half hidden, and made the neighboring sea resound, as he poured out his love for a maiden in the wooing tones of his pipes. The rock-dwellers came also from their self-vaulted caves, bearing all the name of Pan, their father, the ranger of the wilderness. All armed to join the host, they have human form, and a shaggy goat's head upon it with horns. 12 horned Pans there were, with his changeling shape and horn-bearing head, who were begotten of the one ancestral Pan, their mountain-ranging father. One they named Kelenius, Blacky, as his looks bore witness, and one Argenos, Whitely, after his color. Aegicoros was well dubbed Goat Gluts, because he glutted himself with goat's milk, which he pressed from the nanny's udders in the flock. Another masterly Pan was called Longbear Eugenios, from a throat and chin, which was a thick meadow of hair. Daphnonius the Bloody came along with Omester, Etem Raw. Phobos the Fright away, with shaggy-legged Philomnos the lamb's friend. Glaukos came with Canthos, Glaukos glaring like the bright sea, with a complexion to match. Canthos had a mane of hair like a bayard, which gave that name to the horned frequenter of the rocks. Then there was bold Argos with a shock of hair, as white as snow. With these were two other Pans, the sons of Hermes, who divided his love between two nymphs. For one he visited the bed of Sosi, the highland prophetess, and begat a son, inspired with the divine voice of prophecy, Agrius, well versed in the beast-slaying sport of the hunt. The other was Nomios, whom the pasturing sheep loved well, one practiced in the shepherd's pipe, for whom Hermes sought the bed of Penelope, the country nymph. Along with these came Phobos to join the march, savage and insatiate. Old Celanos also was ready for the fray, holding the fennel stalk, that horned son of the soil with twiform shape. He brought 3 festive sons. Astraeis was armed for battle. Maron came too, and Lanius followed, each with a staff to support the hands of their old father in his travels over the hills. These ancients, already weak, had vine branches to support their slow bodies. Many were the years of their time. From these had sprung the hot multiform generation of the much-married satyrs, and the horned satyrs were commanded by these leaders: Pomenios, and Thyasos, Hypsiceros, and Orestes, and Phlegreos with horned Napaios. There was Gamon, there was bold Lycon armed, playful Thereus followed, laughing tippling Petraios. Hill-ranging Lamis marched with Lenobios, and Skirtos tripping along beside Oistos. With Pherespondos walked Lycos the loud-voiced herald, and Pronomos renowned for intelligence. All sons of Hermes, when he had joined Iphtheme to himself in secret union. She was the daughter of Doros, himself sprung from Zeus, and a root of the race of Helen, and Doros was ancestor, whence came the Achaean blood of the Dorian tribe. To these 3, Erephaeus entrusted the dignity of the staff of the heavenly herald, their father the source of wisdom. The whole tribe of satyrs is bold-hearted, while they are drunken with bumpers of wine, but in battle, they are but braggarts, who run away from the fight, hares in the battlefield, lions outside, clever dancers, who know better than all the world how to ladle strong drink from the bull-mixing bowl. Few of these have been men of war, to whom bold Ares has taught all the practice of the fray, and how to manage a battalion. Here when Laios prepared for war, some of them covered their bodies with raw ox hides. Others fortified themselves with skins of shaggy lions. Others put on the grim pelts of panthers. Others equipped themselves with long-pointed staves. Others girt about their chests the skins of long-untiled stags dappled like stars in the sky. With these creatures, the 2 horns on the temples right and left lengthened their sharp points, and a scanty fluff grew on the top of the pointed skull, over the crooked eyes. When they ran, the winged breezes blew back their two ears, stretched out straight and flapping against their hairy cheeks. Behind them a horse's tail stuck out straight and lashed round their loins on either side. Another kind of the multiform centaurs also appeared, the shaggy tribe of the horned fares, to whom Hera had given a different sort of human shape with horns. These were sons of the water naiads in mortal body, whom men call hyads, offspring of the river Lamos. They had played the nurses for the babe that Zeus had so happily brought forth, Bacchus, while he still had a breath of the sewn-up birth pocket. They were the cherishing savior of Bacchus when he was hidden from every eye, and then they had nothing strange in their shape. In that dark cellar, they often dandled the child in bended arms, as he cried daddy to the sky, the seat of his father Zeus, still a child, a play, but a clever babe. Of the wood mimic a newborn kid, hiding in the fold, he covered his body with long hair, and in this strange shape, let out a deceptive bleat between his teeth, and pretended to walk on hooves in goat-like steps. Of the would show himself like a young girl in saffron robes, and take on the feigned shape of a woman, to mislead the mind of spiteful Hera. He molded his lips to speak in a girlish voice, tied a scented veil on his hair. He put on all a woman's many-colored garments, fastened a maiden's vest about his chest and the firm circle of his bosom, and fitted a purple girdle over his hips like a band of maidenhood. But his guile was useless. Hera, who turns her all-seeing eye to every place, saw from on high the ever-changing shape of Laios, and knew all. Then she was angry with the guardians of Bromios. She procured from the Salian Atlas treacherous flowers of the field, and shed a sleep of enchantment over their heads. She distilled poison drugs over their hair. She smeared a subtle magical ointment over their faces, and changed their earlier human shape. Then they took the form of a creature with long ears, and a horse's tail sticking out straight from the loins, and flogging the flanks of its shaggy crested owner. From the temples cows' horns sprouted out, their eyes widened under the horned forehead. The hair ran across their heads in tufts, long white teeth grew out of their jaws, a strange kind of mane grew of itself, covering their neck with rough hair, and ran down from the loins to the feet underneath. 12 captains commanded them all, Spargius and Glenius the dancer, and beside Eurybius the strange figure of Cetius the wine-dresser. Petraios with Rhiponos, Isaacus the deep drinker, and Orthaon, with whom marched both Amphithemis and Phanos, and Numian side by side with well-horned Phanius. Another tribe of multiform centaurs was ready. The Cyprian. Once when Cypris fled, like the wind from the pursuit of her lascivious father, that she might not see an unhallowed bedfellow in her own begetter, Zeus the father gave up the chase, and left the union unattempted, because unwilling Aphrodite was too fast, and he could not catch her. Instead of the Cyprian's bed, he drops on the ground the love shower of seed from the generative plough. Earth received Cronion's fruitful dew, and shot up a strange-looking horned generation. These combatants were joined by Bacchae, some coming from the Maeonian rocks, some from the mountain above the precipitous peaks of Sipylos. Nymphs hastened to join the soldiers of the Thyrsus, the wild Oreids with hearts of men trailing their long robes. Many a year had they seen roll round the turning point, as they lived out their long lives. Some were the medlars who lived on the heights near the shepherds. Some were from the woodland glades and the ridges of the wild forest. Nymphs of the mountain ash coeval with their tree. All these pressed onwards together to the fray, some with brass-backed drums, the instruments of Kybelid Rhea, others with overhanging ivy tendrils wreathed in their hair, or girt with rings of snakes. They carried the sharpened Thyrsus, which the mad Lydian women then took with them, fearless to the Indian war. Stronger than these then came the nurses of Bacchus, troops Basarids well skilled in their art. Aegle and Calicora, Eupateil and Iona. Laughing Calais, Bryusa companion of the seasons, Saline and Rhode, Osinoe and Erutho, Acrete and Metha, Rosy Oinintha with harper and silverfoot Lecast, Stesichor and Prothoe. Last of all came ready for the fray, Tridia too, that grinning old Gamma, heavy with wine. Each army was brought to Bacchus by its own separate leader, but the commander-in-chief was Eryphiodes, roaring with fire, flashing, all conspicuous. Dancing to battle he came, holding no shield, no furious lance, no sword on shoulder, no helmet on his untrimmed locks, or metal to cover his inviolate head. He only tied his loose tresses with serpent knots, a grim garland for his head. Instead of fine-wrought greaves, from ankle to thigh, he wore purple buskins on his silvery feet. He hung a furry fawn skin over his chest, a chest piece dappled with spots like stars. And he fitted a golden kilt round his loins. In his left hand he held a horn full of delicious wine, cunningly wrought of gold. From this pitcher horn poured a straight stream of flowing wine. In his right hand he bore a pointed thyrsus wound about with purple ivy. At the end a heavy bronze head covered with leaves. As soon as Bacchus had donned the well-wrought golden gear of war in the Corybantian courtyard, he left the peaceful precincts of dance-loving Rhea and went past Maeonia. The warriors with the hill-ranging Bacchans hastened to meet the Lord of the Vine. The drivers of wheeled wagons carried shoots of the new plant of Bacchus. Many lines of mules went by, with jars of the viney nectar packed on their backs. Slow asses had loads of purple rugs and many-colored fawn skins on their patient backs. Wine drinkers besides carried silver mixing bowls with golden cups, the furniture of the feast. The Corybants were busy about the bright manger of the panthers, passing the yoke straps over their necks, and entrusted their lions to ivy-bound harness. When they had fastened this threatening bit in their mouths, one centaur with a bristling beard stretched his neck into the yoke willingly, unbidden, and the man mingled with horse half and half, craving the delicious wine even more than a satyr, whinnied eager to carry Bacchus on his withers. The god seated at the rail of his leaf-entwined car, past the stream of Sangarios, past the bosom of the Phrygian land, past the morning rock of stony Niobe, and the stone seeing the Indian host warring against Laios, shed tears, and spoke again with human voice. Make not war against a god, foolish Indians. The son of Zeus, lest Bacchus turn you also, threatening battle, into stone, as Apollo did to me, lest you have to lament a shape like my stony shape. Lest you see the good son of Deriades, Indian Orontes, fallen beside the stream of the river that bears his name. Rhea in wrath is stronger than the Archaris. Flee from Bacchus, Apollo's brother. It would be a shame, if I must see Indians being slain, and weep for strangers. So the stone spoke. Then silence sealed it again. Now the vine god left the Phrygian plain, and entered Ascania. All the people gathered there, to whom Bacchus offered his fruitage, accepted his rites, and welcomed his dancers. Bowing the neck to invincible Bacchus, wishing for the quietude of peace without bloodshed, so mighty was the horned host of Bacchus, with the Bacchan women beside them armed for war. But Laios kept vigil. All night long heaven thundered, threading fiery streaks among the stars, since Rhea then foretold with witnessing flash the bloodshed of the Indian victory. In the morning, the god went forth to war, driving before him the violence of the black men, that he might free the neck of the Lycians, and those who dwelt in Phrygia and Ascania from the yoke of cruel tyranny. Then Bacchus sent 2 heralds to give proclamation of war, either to fight or to fly. And with them went goat-foot Pan, his long-haired beard shadowing his whole chest. But swift-shoe Hera, likening herself to an Indian, the curly-headed Melanius, warned Astraeis, the spear-shaking captain of men, not to uplift the thyrsus, nor to heed the yell of drunken satyrs, but to raise war to the death against Bacchus. She spoke these words to move the Indian chief. "You're a nice one, to fear a feeble troop of women. Fight Astraeus, arm yourself to Calanius, and take a sharp blade to cut down Bacchus and his ivy bunches. Thyrsus is no match for spear. No, look out for Deities. He will be mad, and make an end of you, if you shrink from a weak, unarmed woman." She spoke. The stepmother furious against indomitable Bacchus, the goddess got her way, and hid in darkness. Then the heralds of Bromios departed, for Astraeus drew near them contemptuous, with pitiless menace on his tongue. Furiously he chased away Pan, and the ox-horn satyrs, despising the heralds of Bacchus when he was gentle. They turned with timid foot, and made their way back in flight to Bacchus, now in warlike mood. No, Bacchus made ready his army against the hostile troops of Indians, nor did swarthy Calanius fail to see the womanish warriors. He leapt up with all speed and called to arms the whole Indian host, while bold Astraeus, with ever-growing martial rage, took his stand beside the murmuring waves of the Astraeis lake, and awaited the attack of Bacchus, the vine god. When the captains of the 2 armies of the 2 peoples had mustered their troops in 2 opposing lines, the swarthy Indians advanced to battle with loud cries like Thracian cranes. When they fly from the scourge of winter and floods of stormy rain, to throw their great flocks against the heads of pygmies round the water of Tethys. And when with sharp beaks, they have destroyed that weak helpless race, they wing their way like a cloud over the horn of Ocean. On the other side, the fighting host madly rushed at the call. The unbending servants of war-stirring Bacchus, the battalions of Basarids, also moved like a flood as they gathered. One twined a rope of snakes about her head, one knotted her hair with scented ivy. Another madly caught up her bronze-headed Tharsus. Another let down loose tresses of long hair over her neck, a manolid unveiled, while the wind blew the unbound locks over her shoulders. Another clapped the pair of brazen cymbals, and shook the ringlets upon her head. Another, driven by the impulse of madness, beat the heavy booming drum skin with her hands, and sounded a loud echo of the battle din. Then Tharsus did for spear, and hidden under vine leaves was the metal head of the shaft. Another, yearning for bloody battle, bound round her neck a rope of raw-fed serpents. One again covered her chest with the spotted skin of a panther. Another put on like tunic the dappled skins of mountain fawns, and wrapped herself round with the gay dress which had covered a deer. Another held the cub of a shaggy lioness, and gave it a milky human breast in exchange. There was one who coiled a serpent thrice round under her breast unharmed, a girdle next the skin, while it gaped at her thigh so close, hissing gently, and sleepless gazed at the maiden secrets of the girl who was sleeping off her wine. Another went barefoot over the hills, treading on brambles and sharp bristling thorns, and standing firm on a prickly pear. One attacked a long-legged camel, and sheared through its curving neck with a sweep of her thyrsus. then half to be seen, went stumbling over the path with blind feet, the headless body of the camel staggering about in winding ways, until a hoof sank into a slippery hole, and the creature rolled over helpless on its back in the dust. Another turned her step to a stretch of pasture in the forest, and caught hold of the fell of a maddened bull, then scoring the bull's neck with savage nails, tore off the impenetrable skin, while another tore away all his bowels. You might have seen a girl unveiled, unshod, leaping about on the jagged rocks above a precipice. No fear had she of the sheer fall. No sharp point of stone scratched the girl's naked foot. At the mouth of the Astraeis lake, many a son of India was cut up by the steel of the curetes. The warriors surrounded the battalions of the foe with blow for blow, and imitated the rhythms of the armor dance in the wheeling movements of their feet. Lennius broke off a crested peak from a mountain, and lifting this in his hairy hand, he cast the jagged mass among the enemy. Bacchus yelled in triumph. The Bassarid cast her vine-wreathed point. The heads of many men in that black-skinned crowd were brought down by the womanish Tharsis. Eupeitele was ready, and pierced a bold man with her deadly shaft, then let fly her pointed ivy covered with vine leaves to smash the steel. Stacy Core with her bunches of grapes skipped into the melee, and shooed off a tribe of enemies with man-breaking bull roarer, waving a brazen pair of loud clashing cymbals. There was hard fighting on both sides. There was the sound of the syrinx, the syrinx awaking the battle. There was drooling of pipes, the shepherd's pipes calling to war. There were the Bassarid's howlings, and as the turmoil arose, the black air bellowed with thunderclaps from Zeus, presaging victory for Bromios to come. A great swarm fell. All the thirsty earth was reddened with running blood, and the mouth of the Astraeis lake was a bubbling bloodbath, mingled with Indian gore. But the god pitied his foes in his heart of merry cheer, and he poured the treasure of wine into the waters. So he changed the snowy white waters to yellow, and the river swept along bubbling streams of honey, intoxicating the waters. When this change came upon the waters, the breezes blew perfumed by the newly poured wine, the banks were empurpled. A noble Indian drank, and spoke his wonder in these words. Here is a strange and incredible drink I have seen. This is not the white milk of goats, not dark like water, nor is it like what I have seen in the riddled hives, what the buzzing bee brings forth with sweet wax. No, this delights the mind with a fragrant scent. A man is thirsty in the steam of this sultry heat, but if he scoops up a few drops of running water in his palms, he shakes off at once the whirlwind of parching thirst. Honey surfeits you sooner. Oh, here's a great miracle. When I drink this, I want to drink more. For this had both merits. It is sweet, and it does not surfeit. Hebe, come this way, take up your pitcher, and bring your Trojan cupbearer, who serves with cups the divine company. Let Ganymede draw honey drops from this river, and fill all the mixing bowls of Zeus. This way, friends, have a taste of a honey-distilling river. Here I see an image of the heavens, for that nectar of Olympos which they say is the drink of Zeus. The naiads are pouring out in natural streams on the earth. End of the Divine Army of Bacchus. Please like, share, and subscribe to Esoteric Teachings for more from Nonnus and the Dionysiaca, magic rituals, and esoteric information. Through Gnosis you shall ascend. What do you think about Nonnus? Please tell us what you think in the comments section, and check out our channel for more esoteric content. Thank you. and see you next time.